The static crackled through the radio, disrupting the relative peace of the military base. Sergeant Cole Turner stood at attention, his muscles tense as his commanding officer's voice filled the room. The words that followed would change his life forever. Sergeant Turner, I regret to inform you that due to the extent of your injuries sustained in the IED incident, you are being honorably discharged from service. Colonel James McCall's voice carried a mix of respect and sympathy. Cole's left hand instinctively moved to his ear, where silence had become his constant companion. The IED explosion had taken more than just his hearing on one side. It had stolen his future. 15 years of service, countless missions and brotherhood forged in combat, all ending with a few formal words over a radio. Sir, with all due respect, Cole began to protest, but Colonel McCall cut him off sharply. This isn't up for discussion, Sergeant. The medical board's decision is final. Your service record speaks for itself, and you should be proud. Your discharge papers will be ready tomorrow morning. Cole's jaw clenched as the muscles in his face tightened while he fought to maintain his composure. Understood, sir, he replied bitterly. Later that night, in his quarters, Cole sat on his bunk, staring at the photos taped to the wall. His wife's bright smile beamed back at him from their wedding photo. Next to it, a more recent picture showed his son Nathan at his middle school graduation. They were his anchor, his reason to keep going. Yet the anger still simmered beneath the surface. The trip home was a blur of military transport flights and connecting airports. Cole clutched his duffel bag, containing 15 years of military life compressed into a few cubic feet of space. As he approached his house, he noticed the decorations first: red, white, and blue balloons bobbing in the breeze, and a large "Welcome Home, Sergeant Turner" banner stretched across the front porch. The front door burst open before he reached it. Elena ran out, her arms outstretched, tears streaming down her face. She collided with him in a fierce embrace that nearly knocked him off balance. "You're home," she whispered against his chest. "You're finally home." Nathan appeared in the doorway, no longer the little boy from Cole's memories. At 14, he was all gangly limbs and uncertain movements, trying to find his place in the world. "Hey, Dad," Nathan said, shuffling his feet. "Did you really get blown up?" Elena scolded, pulling away. "We talked about this." Cole laughed, the sound surprising even himself. "It's okay," he said, walking over to ruffle his son's hair. "Yeah, I did. But I'm still here, aren't I?" In the hospital waiting room buzzing with fluorescent lights and quiet conversations, Cole sat with his head in his hands, replaying the events that had led them here. Nathan had been feeling unusually tired for a teenage boy. Unexplained bruising, constant thirst, dramatic weight loss. Dr. Miriam Collins entered, her face grave. Cole and Elena stood up simultaneously, their hands instinctively reaching for each other despite the recent tension. "Mr. and Mrs. Turner," Dr. Collins began, gesturing for them to sit. "I'm afraid I have some difficult news about Nathan's condition." Her words seemed to come from far away, as if Cole were hearing them through water. End-stage renal disease, kidney failure, transplant needed. The medical terms blurred together, but the bottom line was clear. Their son was dying. "How much?" Cole interrupted. "How much will the transplant cost?" Dr. Collins hesitated. "With your insurance, you're still looking at significant out-of-pocket expenses, hundreds of thousands of dollars." Elena gasped beside him. Cole reached for her hand again, squeezing it tightly. "We'll figure it out, whatever it takes." Nathan was admitted that day. Cole stood in the doorway of his son's room, watching as nurses hooked him up to various machines. Nathan looked so small in the hospital bed, his usual teenage bravado stripped away by illness. "Dad," Nathan whispered weakly, "am I going to die?" Cole crossed the room in 3 strides and sat on the edge of the bed. "No, absolutely not. Your mom and I are going to do everything we can to help you. Just focus on getting stronger, okay?" Nathan nodded, though his eyes were filled with fear. "I'm scared." "I know, buddy," Cole said, smoothing Nathan's hair back from his forehead. "But you're not alone. I'm right here." The decision to sell Turner Customs came easily. Cole didn't even hesitate. The business was doing well, and the sale would provide a substantial down payment for Nathan's medical expenses. He announced his decision to Elena that evening in the hospital cafeteria. "But you love that shop." Elena protested, pushing her untouched coffee away. "It's your dream." "Nathan is my dream," Cole replied firmly. "The shop is just a building and some tools. I can always rebuild that. We can't rebuild our son." The next few weeks fell into a routine. Cole threw himself into family life with the same dedication he had given to his military career. He helped Nathan with his algebra homework, discovered his son's newfound interest in basketball, and took Elena out for date nights at their old favorite restaurants. But there were moments when the facade cracked, like when he'd wake up at 500 hours, his body tensed for a PT formation that would never come, or when he'd catch Elena watching him with worried eyes when she thought he wasn't looking. One evening, as Cole sat on the back porch cleaning his personal firearm, old habits die hard. Nathan came out and sat beside him. "Dad," Nathan asked hesitantly, "are you mad about having to leave the army?" Cole's hand stilled on the weapon as he looked at his son, seeing the concern in those young eyes. "Sometimes," he admitted, "but being here with you and your mom makes it better." Nathan nodded, then said, "I'm glad you're home, even if it's not how you wanted it to happen." The honesty in his son's words hit Cole hard. He set down the cleaning cloth and pulled Nathan into a one-armed hug. "Me too, buddy. Me too." But not everything was as perfect as it seemed. Cole noticed the small things, how Elena would sometimes step away to take phone calls, her voice dropping to whispers, how she'd changed her phone's password, something she'd never done before. He told himself he was being paranoid, that his military training was making him see threats where none existed. The idea for Turner Customs came to him during a sleepless night. He had always loved working on cars and had been the go-to mechanic in his unit. A garage space on the edge of town was available for a reasonable rent, and his savings combined with a small business loan would cover the startup costs. Elena supported the idea enthusiastically, perhaps too enthusiastically, Cole thought later. "It's perfect for you," she said. "You need something to focus on, something that's yours." The business took off quickly. Cole's attention to detail and reputation for honest work brought in a steady stream of customers. He specialized in custom modifications, turning ordinary vehicles into personalized masterpieces. The work gave him purpose, a reason to get up in the morning that didn't involve following orders or dodging bullets. But then came that evening on the back porch. Cole had come home early, planning to surprise Elena with takeout from her favorite Thai place. Instead, he found her there, phone pressed to her ear, speaking in that soft, intimate tone he remembered from their early dating days. "I miss you too," she was saying. "But we have to be careful. He's not stupid." Cole cleared his throat, and Elena spun around, nearly dropping her phone. Her face flushed red as she quickly ended the call. "Who was that?" Cole asked, keeping his voice neutral. "Just an old friend," Elena replied quickly. Too quickly. "We were catching up." Cole nodded, pretending to accept her explanation. But that night, as he lay awake beside her sleeping form, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was very wrong in his perfect homecoming story. The kidney donation process moved forward despite the revelation about Nathan's paternity. Cole maintained his composure during the day, playing the role of devoted husband and father perfectly. But at night, while Elena slept soundly beside him, his mind churned with plans for revenge. One particularly sleepless night, Cole sat in his home office, scrolling through his phone contacts. He paused at a familiar name, Raymond Pierce. They had served together on 2 tours, and Raymond had since become a private investigator. Cole's thumb hovered over the call button for a moment before pressing it. "Cole Turner," Raymond's gruff voice answered on the 3rd ring. "It's been a while, brother, too long." Cole replied, "Listen, Ray, I need your help with something sensitive." There was a pause on the other end. "You still at the same place?" This sounds like a face-to-face conversation. The next afternoon, Raymond's weathered pickup truck pulled into Cole's driveway. Elena was at work, and Nathan had a dialysis appointment with a hospital volunteer, giving them privacy for their discussion. Raymond hadn't changed much since their army days, still barrel-chested with a perpetual 5 o'clock shadow. He sat across from Cole at the kitchen table, listening intently as Cole laid out the situation. "She's been having an affair," Cole explained, his voice tight with controlled anger. "The worst part? Nathan isn't mine biologically. I found out during the transplant testing." Raymond's expression darkened. "Good grief, Cole. That's messed up." He leaned forward, resting his forearms on the table. "What do you need from me?" he asked. "Everything, Ray. I want to know who he is, how long it's been going on, what else they're hiding." Cole's knuckles whitened as he gripped his coffee mug. "I need proof. Solid, undeniable evidence." "You planning to use it for the divorce?" Raymond inquired. Cole shook his head slowly. "No, not yet. First, I want to understand the full scope of their betrayal." He let the sentence hang unfinished. Raymond studied his old friend carefully. "You sure about this? Once we start digging, we might find things you wish you hadn't known." "I need to know the truth, Ray. All of it," Cole insisted. Raymond nodded, pulling out a small notebook. "All right, tell me everything you've noticed. Phone calls, behavior changes, anything suspicious." For the next hour, Cole detailed Elena's secretive phone calls, the changed passwords, and the unexplained absences. Raymond took meticulous notes. "Don't change your behavior. Act normal," Raymond warned as he stood to leave. "If she suspects we're investigating, she'll be more careful." Cole walked Raymond to his truck. "How long do you think this will take?" he asked. "Give me a week to start. I'll focus on identifying the other man first." Raymond clapped Cole on the shoulder. "We'll figure this out, brother, just like old times." As Raymond's truck disappeared down the street, Cole felt a mixture of relief and anticipation. Finally, he was taking action instead of just reacting. The next few days passed in a blur of hospital visits and domestic routines. Cole played his part perfectly, even managing to smile and nod when Elena made excuses about working late. Meanwhile, Raymond's investigation began producing results. "His name is Direct Nolan," Raymond reported during a clandestine meeting at a diner across town. He slid a manila envelope across the table. "He's a professor at Westbridge Community College. They've known each other since high school." Cole opened the envelope and examined the surveillance photos inside. They showed Elena meeting a well-dressed man in various locations: coffee shops, restaurants, a motel on the outskirts of town. The man had an academic look about him, with wire-rimmed glasses and carefully styled hair. "How long?" Cole asked in a rough voice. "From what I've uncovered, the affair's been going on for at least 15 years. Raymond paused, letting that sink in. "There's more. Nolan has a second phone, one that only Elena has the number to. I managed to access some of their text history." Cole's jaw clenched. "Show me." Raymond pulled out his tablet and displayed screen captures of intimate text messages filled with inside jokes and plans for future meetings. But what caught Cole's attention were the occasional references to business dealings and special deliveries. "I did some digging into Nolan's background," Raymond continued. "He's got some interesting financial patterns, large cash deposits, irregular timing. And there have been rumors at the college about students getting access to certain substances." Cole's military training kicked in, his mind automatically analyzing the new intelligence. "You think they're involved in something illegal?" he asked. "I think there's more to this than just an affair." Raymond swiped through more photos on his tablet. "Look at this one. That package Elena's carrying. It came from the pharmaceutical company where she works." The pieces began falling into place in Cole's mind. Elena's access to pharmaceuticals, Derek's position at the college, the suspicious financial transactions. It painted a disturbing picture. We need more evidence, Cole decided. Hard proof of what they're doing. Raymond nodded. I'll keep digging. Lowering his voice, Raymond added, if they're really involved in substance distribution, this is serious. We might need to involve the authorities eventually. Not yet, Cole said firmly. I want to understand everything first, how deep this goes, who else is involved. Then we'll decide how to proceed. As Cole drove home that evening, his mind raced with the new information. The betrayal was worse than he'd imagined, not just an affair, but potentially criminal activity as well. The anger that had simmered inside him began to crystallize into something harder, more focused. He pulled into his driveway, just as Elena was leaving for what she claimed was a work dinner. She waved cheerfully as she drove past, completely unaware that her carefully constructed world of lies was beginning to crumble. Inside the house, Cole found Nathan on the couch, looking pale but determined as he worked on his homework. Despite everything, the sight of his son brought a genuine smile to his face. How are you feeling, buddy? Cole asked, sitting beside him. Tired, Nathan admitted, but I finished my math worksheet. Cole examined the homework, pride momentarily overcoming his darker thoughts. This looks good. You're getting better at algebra. Dad, Nathan said hesitantly. Are you and Mom okay? You seem different lately. Cole kept his expression neutral. We're just stressed about getting you better. That's all that matters right now. Nathan nodded, but something in his eyes suggested he wasn't entirely convinced. Cole pulled him into a one-armed hug, silently vowing to protect him from the storm that was coming. Edwin continued working his way deeper into Derek's confidence, documenting every conversation, meeting, and the names of other student dealers. But the most valuable intelligence came from an unexpected source. One evening after class, Edwin noticed a young woman crying in the hallway. He recognized her as Brianna Morales, one of Derek's regular students. Hey, he said softly, offering her a tissue. Are you okay? Brianna looked up, mascara streaking her cheeks. I can't do this anymore, she whispered. I never wanted to be part of this. Edwin sat beside her, maintaining his cover while gently encouraging her to talk. Brianna poured out her story, how Derek had recruited her, promised easy money, then trapped her in his web of distribution and dependency. I want out, she said finally, but I'm scared of what he'll do. Edwin saw an opportunity. What if I told you there might be a way? People who could help. Brianna's eyes widened with hope and fear. Who? Let me make some calls, Edwin said. But you have to be sure. This means telling everything you know. Brianna wiped her eyes and straightened her shoulders. I'm sure. I'll tell everything. Immediately, Edwin reported this development to Cole and Raymond. Brianna's testimony could be the key to bringing down Derek's entire operation. Set up a meeting, Cole decided. Somewhere safe, away from campus. The meeting took place at a small coffee shop in the next town. Brianna provided information about Derek's operation. Names, dates, locations. She even had text messages and photos stored on her phone. Elena. Mrs. Turner. She brings the supplies, Brianna explained. Always in those white paper bags from the pharmacy where she works. Derek distributes them to us during study sessions. Cole's hands clenched at the mention of Elena's involvement, but his voice remained steady. You're doing the right thing, Brianna. We'll make sure you're protected. As they left the coffee shop, Edwin noticed Nathan waiting in Cole's car. The teenager had been spending time at the college, catching up on schoolwork he'd missed during his illness. Want me to help him with his homework? Edwin offered, surprised at how much he'd come to care about Cole's son. That would be great, Cole replied. He likes you, you know. Says you explain things better than his regular teachers. Edwin felt a twinge of guilt. He had grown genuinely fond of Nathan, and the thought of his undercover work potentially hurting the boy troubled him. Later that week, after helping Nathan with his calculus homework, Edwin pulled Cole aside. "Sir, I need to tell you something," he said, his voice tight with emotion. "I'm getting too attached to Nathan. He's like the little brother I never had. Sometimes it feels like I'm betraying him by being part of this deception." Cole placed a hand on Edwin's shoulder. "This is dangerous work, son. I understand how you feel, but we can't let emotions cloud our judgment. We're doing this to protect Nathan and other kids like him." Edwin nodded reluctantly. "Yes, sir. I'll stay focused." But as he drove home that night, Edwin couldn't shake the feeling that the operation was becoming more complicated than any of them had anticipated. The lines between deception and genuine connection were blurring, and he wondered how many more lives would be affected before it was over. The hunt for Alina and Derek intensified. Raymond worked his contacts, tracking their movements through a network of informants. They had gone underground, but they couldn't hide forever. "They're staying at cheap motels," Raymond reported during a strategy meeting, "paying cash, using fake names. But here's the interesting part. They're still using a burner phone." Cole leaned forward. "Alina's old burner." "Exactly," Raymond grinned. "And guess who paid the bill for it all these years?" Cole realized. "I did." Through their joint account, Alina never spent her own money if she could avoid it. Raymond spread out a map marked with red dots. "These are the locations where the phone has been active. They're moving in a pattern, staying one step ahead of the FBI." Cole studied the pattern, his military training helping him see the strategy behind their movements. "They're circling back, planning something," he observed. "My thoughts exactly," Raymond agreed. "They're not just running, they're hunting." Cole's prediction proved accurate. That night, as he slept in his bedroom, two figures crept through the darkness of his backyard. Alina knew the house's layout perfectly, including the window with the loose latch that Cole hadn't fixed due to his focus on Nathan's health. Alina and Derek moved silently toward the window. Cole's partial deafness in his left ear made him vulnerable, a fact Alina intended to exploit. She carried a small bag containing medical supplies from her days at the pharmacy, including a vial of general anesthesia. "Remember the plan," Derek whispered as they eased the window open. Quick and quiet. They slipped into the house, their footsteps silent on the carpeted floor. Alina led the way to Cole's bedroom, her familiarity with the house making navigation simple even in the darkness. Cole lay sleeping, unaware of the intruders. Alina approached with practiced efficiency, the anesthesia mask ready. When she pressed it to his face, Cole's eyes snapped open, but it was too late. The substance took effect quickly, and his struggle lasted only seconds. "Help me with him," Alina hissed to Derek. They bound Cole's hands and blindfolded him before carrying him to their waiting car. "The factory," Derek directed as they drove away. "My father's old place. No one's been there in years." The abandoned factory stood on the outskirts of town, its hulking shape a dark silhouette against the night sky. They dragged Cole's unconscious form inside and secured him to a chair in the middle of the main floor. As the anesthesia began to wear off, Cole slowly regained consciousness. The first thing he noticed was the musty smell of abandoned machinery and concrete. Then he became aware of the rope binding him to the chair and the blindfold over his eyes. "Welcome back, darling." Alina's voice dripped with sarcasm. She yanked off his blindfold, allowing him to see her and Derek standing before him. "You should have just minded your own business." Alina's voice rose with anger. "I was happy before you came back." Cole laughed, the sound echoing in the empty factory. "You call that happy? You were living a lie. Did you really think you were going to get away with all of this? You're a fool, Cole." Derek stepped forward, twirling a crowbar in his hands as if to say, "Now you're going to pay the price." As Derek raised the crowbar, Cole remained still, waiting. The ropes around his wrists weren't as tight as they should have been. An amateur mistake. He had been working them loose since regaining consciousness, using techniques he'd learned in military training. Derek raised the crowbar, but before he could strike, Cole made his move. In one fluid motion, he freed his hands and lunged forward. tackling Derek. The crowbar clattered across the concrete floor as they grappled. Cole's combat training gave him the advantage. He drove his knee into Derek's leg, sending him stumbling. Grabbing the fallen crowbar, Cole swung it in a controlled arc, striking Derek's leg with enough force to drop him. Elena screamed in rage and rushed forward, but Cole was ready. He sidestepped her attack, using her momentum to send her sprawling. Through his keen hearing, Cole detected the approaching sirens. Raymond and the FBI had followed his tracking device, the one he had activated the moment he realized he was being kidnapped. The factory doors burst open, flooding the space with red and blue lights. Raymond led the charge, followed by FBI agents with weapons drawn. "Federal agents, freeze," Raymond commanded. Derek and Elena found themselves surrounded, their amateur kidnapping plot thoroughly outmatched by professional law enforcement. As agents moved in to make the arrests, Cole noticed movement in the shadows, more of Derek's associates trying to flee. He didn't hesitate. He charged after them, taking down two with quick, efficient moves. "That's what you get for messing with a soldier," he growled as he secured them for the FBI. Raymond then approached his agents and led the prisoners away. "You okay, brother?" Raymond asked. Cole nodded, rubbing his wrists where the ropes had chafed. "They did exactly what we expected. Amateurs playing at being criminal masterminds. Still, it was a risk. They could have killed you." "They could have tried," Cole corrected, "but they underestimated what a father will do to protect his family." As dawn broke over the factory, Cole watched Elena and Derek being loaded into separate FBI vehicles. Their reign of corruption and betrayal was finally over. They had tried to silence him, but instead had sealed their own fates. Nathan was safe at home with Edwin standing guard, unaware of the night's events. Cole intended to keep it that way. His son had been through enough. He didn't need to know how close violence had come to their doorstep. FBI evidence technicians swarmed the factory, documenting everything. They found more proof of Derek's substance operation, records, phones, and even a small stash of illegal pharmaceuticals. Elena and Derek had brought their entire operation to their hideout, making the FBI's job even easier. Cole stood with Raymond, watching the scene unfold. The price of truth had been high. His marriage, his privacy, his sense of security. But as he thought of Nathan, of the students Derek had exploited, of the lives Elena had helped destroy, he knew it had been worth it. The sun rose fully over the factory, marking the end of a long night and the beginning of a new day. "Let's go home," Cole said to Raymond. "Nathan will be waking up soon." As they drove away from the factory, Cole felt the weight of the past few months lifting from his shoulders. The war was over. He had won. Now he could focus on what really mattered, healing his family and building a better future for his son. The morning after Elena and Derek's arrest, Cole's phone buzzed incessantly with calls from reporters. News vans lined his street, their satellite dishes reaching toward the sky like metal trees. The story had exploded across local stations and was quickly gaining national attention. A decorated veteran uncovering a substance trafficking ring run by a college professor and his own wife. The headlines grew more dramatic by the hour. Professor's substance ring exposed by Army vet. Wife's betrayal leads to major substance busts. Local college scandal. Students recruited as dealers. The campus erupted in chaos. Students who had taken Derek's classes gathered in protest, demanding investigations into their grades and academic standing. The administration placed the entire sociology department under review. Cole watched the coverage from his living room, keeping Nathan home from school to shield him from the immediate fallout. Local news showed footage of Derek being led into the courthouse for his arraignment, followed by Elena in handcuffs, her head bowed. The defendants, Derek Nolan and Elena Turner, stand accused of running a sophisticated substance distribution network through Westbridge Community College. The reporter announced. Sources say Professor Nolan targeted financially vulnerable students. Cole muted the TV as Nathan entered the room. His son's face was pale, his movements uncertain. "They're saying things about Mom at school," Nathan said quietly. Miles Anderson's older brother had Professor Nolan for sociology. "Stop," Cole interrupted gently. "What other people say doesn't matter. We know the truth. And that's enough." Yet the truth was everywhere, impossible to escape. Elena's family held a press conference denouncing her actions. Her sister sobbed on camera, expressing shock and disappointment. The pharmaceutical company where Elena worked launched an internal investigation, its stock prices dropping as investors panicked. The next few weeks brought a parade of law enforcement officials to Cole's door. FBI agents needed additional statements. DEA investigators had questions about Elena's pharmaceutical connections, and local police wanted details about Discharged student recruitment tactics. Nathan struggled to maintain his composure, and Cole noticed the signs of strain. His son's grades began to slip, and he stopped talking to his friends. One afternoon, Cole found Nathan sitting alone in his room, staring at an old family photo. "I got called into the counselor's office today," Nathan said without looking up. "Some kids were saying stuff about Mom being a substance dealer, about me not really being your son." Cole sat beside him on the bed. "Listen to me. Those kids don't know anything about us, about what makes a real family. But they're right about one thing, aren't they? Mom is going to jail." Cole nodded slowly. "Yes, she made bad choices, and now she has to face the consequences, just like when you were grounded for not doing your homework." The innocent comparison made Cole's heart ache. "That's why I've arranged for you to talk to someone, a therapist who helps kids deal with difficult situations." Nathan's shoulders tensed. "I don't need a shrink. Think of it more like a coach," Cole suggested. "Someone who can help you develop strategies for handling tough times, just like Coach Davis helps you with basketball." The mention of basketball reminded Cole that life had to continue despite the chaos. He enrolled Nathan in therapy sessions and worked with his teachers to develop a plan for catching up on missed schoolwork. Cole himself struggled with the aftermath of his actions. While the public hailed him as a hero for exposing the illegal substance ring, he questioned the cost of his revenge. The satisfaction he had expected to feel was hollow, replaced by a deep weariness. One evening, as he sorted through old photos for the FBI, Raymond stopped by to check on him. "You did the right thing," Raymond said, watching Cole separate pictures into evidence piles. "Those two were poisoning the community. Who knows how many kids they could have hurt." Cole set down a photo of Elena from their wedding. "I know," he murmured, "but sometimes doing the right thing feels wrong anyway." "That's because you're a good man," Raymond replied. "The kind who can't take pleasure in other people's pain, even when they deserve it." Their conversation was interrupted by a knock at the door. It was Edwin, looking uncomfortable in a suit and tie. "Just finished my deposition with the DA's office," he explained, loosening his collar. "They want me to testify about my time undercover in Nolan's class." Cole studied the young man who had risked so much to help him. "You did good work, Edwin, above and beyond what I asked for." Edwin's expression brightened. "Actually, that's not why I'm here. I've been thinking about the future, what comes next. I heard about an auto shop for sale on Harrison Avenue." The hint of hope in Edwin's voice sparked something in Cole's mind. "A way forward, perhaps, a chance to rebuild from the ashes of my old life. But first, we had to get through the trial." On the first day of the trial, the courthouse steps were crowded with reporters and spectators. Cole led Nathan through the media gauntlet, keeping his son close as cameras flashed around them. Inside, the courtroom buzzed with tension. Derek and Elena sat at separate tables with their attorneys, neither acknowledging the other's presence. Cole noticed how different they looked from their previous confident selves. Derek's academic polish had deteriorated into nervous tics, while Elena's clothes had been replaced by a plain suit from the prison commissary. The prosecutor's opening statement laid out the government's case in damning detail. Photos of substance deals on campus, audio recordings of Derek recruiting students, bank records showing suspicious deposits, and lists of prescriptions that Elena had falsified. Cole took the stand on the second day. The prosecutor led him through his testimony carefully. "And when did you first become suspicious of your wife's activities?" "After I returned home from the army," Cole replied steadily. "She was taking calls in secret, acting nervous." "What prompted you to investigate further?" Cole described discovering he wasn't Nathan's biological father, the overheard phone conversation at the hospital, and hiring Raymond to dig deeper. As he spoke, he kept his eyes fixed on the jury, avoiding Elena's gaze. "Mr. Turner," the prosecutor continued, "please tell the court about the substance operation you uncovered." Cole detailed everything. The network of student dealers, the pharmaceutical supply chain, and the money laundering through the college's scholarship fund. With each revelation, the jury's expressions grew darker. Elena's attorney tried to paint her as a victim during cross-examination. "Isn't it true that you were angry about your wife's affair? That this whole investigation was motivated by revenge?" "I was angry," Cole admitted, "but this went beyond personal betrayal. They were destroying young lives for profit." "You did what you did," he added, looking directly at Elena for the first time. "So don't try to sit here and act innocent." Elena then took the stand, her testimony a performance of tears and regret. She claimed that Derek had manipulated her, using their old friendship to draw her into his scheme. "I was lonely," she sobbed. "Cole was always deployed, and Derek was there. He said he needed my help to provide financial aid to struggling students. I never meant for things to go so far." The jury remained impassive. They had seen the evidence. Text messages showing Elena actively participating in the operation, surveillance photos of her delivering illegal substances, and bank statements revealing her share of the profits. Derek's testimony proved to be his undoing. In an attempt to shift blame, he claimed that Elena had masterminded the entire operation, insisting that she had access to the pharmaceuticals and knew which students were vulnerable from processing their financial aid applications, while he claimed he was just trying to help them stay in school. His story fell apart under cross-examination. The prosecutor produced emails showing that Derek had run similar schemes at 2 other colleges before coming to Westbridge. Former students testified about his recruitment tactics and his threats when they tried to quit. The jury deliberated for 3 days. Cole and Nathan waited at home, trying to maintain normal routines despite the tension. Finally, Raymond called with news. The verdict was in. They returned to the packed courtroom. The jury foreman stood, papers trembling slightly in his hands. "In the matter of State versus Derek Nolan, on the count of substance trafficking, we find the defendant guilty." The litany of guilty verdicts continued: conspiracy, endangering minors, money laundering. Derek slumped in his chair as each charge was read. "In the matter of State versus Elena Turner, on the count of conspiracy to distribute controlled substances, we find the defendant guilty." Elena's convictions were fewer, but still substantial. She would serve time, though less than Derek. As the bailiff led them away, Elena turned to look at Cole one last time. Her face held a mixture of hatred and remorse, but Cole felt nothing as he met her gaze. Outside the courthouse, reporters shouted questions about justice and closure. Cole guided Nathan through the crowd without commenting. The legal battle was over, but the real work of healing was just beginning. 6 months after the trial, Cole stood in front of a familiar building, his old garage where Turner Customs had once thrived. The space had been empty since he sold it to pay for Nathan's transplant. Now, with Edwin by his side, he was ready to start again. "The equipment needs updating," Edwin noted, running his hand along a dusty workbench. "But the bones are good." Cole nodded. "Turner Customs 2.0 has a nice ring to it." They spent weeks renovating the space, juggling Edwin's deposition preparations and Nathan's therapy appointments. Cole found peace in the physical labor, in creating something positive after so much destruction. Nathan helped when he could, showing increasing interest in the mechanical aspects of the work. His therapy sessions were making a difference. He smiled more, talked more, and seemed more like his old self. "Dr. Miriam Collins says I'm processing my anger in a healthy way," Nathan announced one afternoon as they installed new lighting. She says it's okay to be mad at Mom, but still miss her sometimes. Cole paused in his work. How do you feel about that? Confused, I guess. Like, I hate what she did. But she's still my mom, you know. Nathan fiddled with a wire nut. But you're still my dad. That's the part I'm sure about. The shop's grand reopening drew a surprisingly large crowd. The scandal had made Cole something of a local celebrity, but he was determined to let the quality of their work speak for itself. Edwin proved to be a natural at handling customers, his easy charm complementing Cole's technical expertise. They specialized in custom modifications, building a reputation for innovative designs and meticulous execution. One quiet evening, as they cleaned up after a long day of work, Edwin broached a subject they'd both been avoiding. Sir, about what happened during the investigation, getting close to Nathan while I was undercover. You don't need to explain. Cole interrupted. You were doing your job, but the connection was real. Nathan needs good people in his life now more than ever. Edwin relaxed slightly. I meant what I said before. I'll follow you to the end. Sir, you and Nathan, you're like family to me now. The months passed, bringing gradual healing. Nathan's grades improved, and the shop prospered. Cole found himself looking forward to each day instead of merely enduring it. Then came the letter. Cole recognized Elena's handwriting on the envelope, postmarked from the women's correctional facility. He carried it for days before finally opening it one night after Nathan had gone to bed. Dear Cole, it began. I've had a lot of time to think about what I did, about the choices I made. I know sorry isn't enough, but I am sorry, not just for the criminal actions, but for betraying you and for hurting Nathan. The letter continued for pages, full of explanations and apologies. Cole read it twice, searching his heart for a response. The anger that had driven him for so long had faded, replaced by something closer to pity. He wrote a short reply. I forgive you, not for your sake, but for mine and Nathan's. We need to move forward without carrying the weight of hatred. That weekend, Cole and Nathan worked on their first father-son project car, a classic Mustang in need of complete restoration. As they mapped out their plans, Cole noticed how comfortable Nathan had become in the shop, how confidently he handled the tools. You're getting pretty good at this, Cole observed. Nathan grinned. Well, I learned from the best. Hey Dad, think maybe when I'm older, this could be Turner Customs 3.0. Could be, Cole agreed, feeling the surge of pride and hope. Later, watching Nathan chat with customers while Edwin demonstrated a new paint technique, Cole reflected on their journey. They had lost so much: trust, innocence, the family they thought they had, but they had gained something too: strength, resilience, and a deeper understanding of what really makes a family. As the sun set, they locked up the shop, the sky painted in shades of possibility. 10 years later, the sign outside the industrial complex read in bold chrome letters, Turner Customs International. The building, once a small garage on the edge of town, had expanded into a sprawling facility housing multiple specialized workshops, a design center, and a showroom featuring award-winning custom vehicles. Cole Turner, now in his early 50s, stood in his office overlooking the main workshop floor. His hair had grayed at the temples, and faint lines marked the corners of his eyes, but his posture remained military straight. Through the glass wall, he watched his son Nathan, now 24, leading a team meeting at the prototype station. The Dubai client wants something unique, Nathan explained, gesturing to a 3D model on the large screen. I'm thinking we integrate solar panels into the body panels, hidden under the clear coat. Edwin, can your team handle the electrical integration? Edwin Blackwell, who had risen to become Chief Operations Officer of Turner Customs, nodded thoughtfully. We'll need to modify the power distribution system, but it's doable. I'll have Ava Kim run some simulations. Cole smiled, remembering how far they'd come from those early days of rebuilding the shop. The business had grown beyond their wildest expectations, fueled by Nathan's innovative designs and Edwin's exceptional management skills. They had expanded from custom cars to specialized vehicles for military and civilian applications, earning contracts with government agencies and private collectors worldwide. A knock on Cole's office door interrupted his thoughts. His old friend and now head of security, Raymond, entered with a tablet in hand. "Got those background checks you wanted on the new hires?" he asked, settling into a chair. Age had added silver to his beard, but his sharp investigative instincts remained unchanged. "All clean, though one has an interesting connection. Remember Brianna Morales?" Cole's mind flashed back to the young student who had helped expose Derek Nolan's illegal substance operation. "The applicant is related to her younger brother. She even wrote him a recommendation letter." Raymond handed over the tablet. "She's doing well, by the way, running a youth counseling program in California now, helping kids stay away from illegal substances." The mention of the past brought a flood of memories. After the trial, Derek Nolan had been sentenced to 25 years in federal prison. He still had 15 years to serve, though rumors said he'd become a model prisoner teaching GED classes. Alina had served 8 years of her 12-year sentence before being released on parole. She'd moved across the country, remarried, and according to Raymond's occasional updates, worked at a women's rehabilitation center. She and Nathan had limited contact. Birthday cards, occasional phone calls. But the relationship remained distant. "Dad," Nathan said as he appeared in the doorway with a tablet in hand, "the engineering team needs your input on the new suspension design." Cole nodded to Raymond and followed his son to the development lab. Nathan had grown into a confident young man. His past trauma had transformed into determination and empathy. He had graduated from engineering school with honors and earned an MBA while working his way up through various departments at Turner Customs. "The team thinks we can improve stability by 30%, Nathan explained, pulling up technical diagrams. "But we need your expertise on the military applications." As they discussed technical details, Cole noticed a small velvet box poking out of Nathan's jacket pocket. "Planning something special?" Nathan blushed slightly, touching the box. "Yeah, I'm asking Maria Delgado tonight. Figured after 3 years of dating, it's time." Cole approved. "Maria is brilliant, kind, and understands the importance of family. She'll say yes." "Want to use the mountain house for the proposal?" Nathan asked. "Already arranged with Edwin. He's setting up the deck with lights and flowers. Maria thinks we're going up there to test the new night vision system." Their conversation was interrupted by a commotion in the main hall. A delivery man struggled with an enormous gift basket while Edwin helped. "It's from the governor's office," Edwin explained as they approached, thanking us for the modified security vehicles we provided for the protection detail. The company's reputation had grown significantly over the years. They had developed specialized vehicles for law enforcement, emergency services, and military applications, their anti-substance trafficking modifications especially sought after, a fact that gave Cole a sense of poetic justice. Later that afternoon, Cole visited the company's training center where Edwin was mentoring a group of veterans transitioning to civilian work. Turner Customs made a point of hiring former military personnel, providing them with technical training and career opportunities. "The skills you learned in service are valuable here," Edwin told the group. "Attention to detail, discipline, teamwork, these are the foundations of our success." The training program had been Edwin's idea, inspired by his own experience transitioning from soldier to businessman. Under his guidance, dozens of veterans had found new purpose in civilian life. Cole's phone buzzed with a text from his wife, Rebecca. They had met 5 years ago at a charity gala where Turner Customs was sponsoring underprivileged youth in technical education programs. Rebecca, a former military nurse, had immediately understood Cole's complexities and helped him open his heart to love again. "Dinner at 7, the text read. Nathan invited Maria's family. "Time to celebrate." Cole smiled and replied with a thumbs-up emoji. Rebecca had helped him navigate the challenges of balancing family and business, becoming a supportive stepmother to Nathan and a valuable advisor in their philanthropic initiatives. The Turner Foundation, established 3 years ago, was focused on helping young people avoid illegal substance abuse through education and opportunity. They provided scholarships, apprenticeships, and support services, turning the pain of their past into hope for others. As evening approached, Cole completed his daily ritual, a walk through each department, checking in with employees and observing operations. The facility hummed with activity, 3 shifts working around the clock to meet global demand. In the prototype shop, he found Ava Kim, their lead electrical engineer, working late on the solar integration project. Fresh out of MIT, she had been drawn by Nathan's innovative vision and the company's ethical standards. "The simulations are promising," she reported, showing him the data. "We can achieve 90% efficiency without compromising the aesthetic." "Good work," Cole approved. "But don't miss dinner. Nathan's getting engaged tonight." Ava's face lit up. Finally, Maria had been dropping hints for months. The news of Nathan's proposal spread quickly through the facility, generating excitement among the close-knit staff. Many had watched Nathan grow from a wounded teenager into the capable leader he had become. At home that evening, Cole helped Rebecca prepare for the celebration dinner. Their house, while comfortable, maintained the military orderliness he preferred. Photos lined the walls: Nathan's graduation, the company's expansion ceremonies, family vacations, and even Edwin's wedding to his college sweetheart. "The ring is beautiful," Rebecca commented as she arranged flowers. "Nathan showed it to me last week. Maria will love it." "He's come so far," Cole mused, remembering the scared boy who had faced so many betrayals. "They both have." The doorbell rang, announcing Maria's family's arrival. Her father, a retired police detective, had become good friends with Cole, bonding over their shared values and love of classic cars. As Cole welcomed them, his phone buzzed with a message from Edwin. "Setup complete at Mountain House. Champagne chilling. Good luck to the kid." The evening unfolded perfectly. Nathan and Maria left for their testing mission after dinner while the family waited for news. 2 hours later, Nathan's text arrived. A photo of Maria's hand wearing the ring, backdropped by the twinkling lights Edwin had arranged on the deck. Later that night, after the celebrations had ended and the guests had departed, Cole sat in his study reviewing old photos. He found one from the early days of Turner Customs 2.0. Nathan and Edwin, working on their first restoration project, both so young and uncertain. Another photo showed Raymond teaching Nathan surveillance techniques for security purposes, though it was really about building the boy's confidence. Then there was Edwin's graduation from business school, Nathan's first patent application, and the groundbreaking ceremony for the new facility. The photos told a story of healing and growth, a story of broken trust, rebuilt into something stronger. The pain of Elena's betrayal had faded, transformed into wisdom that helped them avoid similar wounds and heal others who had been hurt. Cole's phone lit up with one final message for the night. "Thanks, Dad, for everything. Love you." Simple words that carried the weight of their shared journey. From the ashes of betrayal, they had built not just a successful business, but a true family, bound by choice rather than blood. The next morning, Cole arrived early at the facility, watching the sunrise paint the Turner Customs International sign in golden light. Employee cars began filling the parking lot, veterans finding new purpose, young engineers pursuing innovation, and office staff keeping operations smooth. Nathan arrived with Maria, both glowing with happiness. Edwin followed shortly after, carrying blueprints for their next big project. Raymond appeared with his daily security briefing, and Ava Kim rushed in with breakthrough news about the solar integration. Cole observed it all from his office, feeling a deep sense of satisfaction. They had transformed pain into purpose, betrayal into strength, and loss into legacy. The future stretched bright before them, filled with possibilities they would explore together. As he joined his team for the morning briefing, Cole reflected on the twists and turns that had led them here. The army sergeant who had returned home to betrayal could never have imagined this future. But through determination, loyalty, and love, they had built something remarkable. The past could not be changed, but it had shaped them into who they were meant to become. And as Cole looked at the faces around the conference table, his son, his friends, his chosen family, he knew that sometimes the worst betrayals could lead to the greatest blessings. The meeting began, and with it, another day of moving forward, innovating, growing, and most importantly, being there for each other. The Turner legacy would continue, not defined by the betrayals of the past, but by the bonds they had forged in overcoming them.